Hi guys! So we are here to let you all know who the winners are of the 3 copies of Wired to Eat. We had just a remarkable amount of questions. They were really, really good, and I'm going to actually try to answer as many of them as I can in a separate video, but we're going to tackle the
The three
winners
winners, yep.
in this one.
So the first one, and forgive me as I pronounce the different handles, but Susan Mesa Verde, biggest fan from the Netherlands here. My question, did you change your opinion about the most optimal diet for humans in these past years, or is this still paleo, even with all your newly gained knowledge? I'm very curious how this is presented in Wired to Eat. Looking forward to reading it.
Really good question, and this is I guess one of the unfortunate things of being the paleo guy, like folks forget that you have aptitude in other areas, or you maybe have some thoughts that deviate from just this orthodox paleo story. But I still think that this ancestral health model is clearly the most powerful lens that we can use for asking questions about human health. It relates to sleep and, of course, food and movement and community, gut microbiome. Like, this is where it all really starts. But I've always suggested that this paleo diet template specifically is a starting place. And then it would behoove us to get out and try to do some exploration and some looking around beyond that and see what type of latitude we have. So I guess, if anything, this is just an effort to really take that idea and push it out in a really systematic way. So whereas in the past I've kind of left it up to people to go out and do that experimentation above and beyond basic paleo diet principles, this one we actually walk you through and we give you step-by-step process for figuring out what type of latitude you have to, again, find what's optimal for you.
Okay. Next winner is healthier_Carrie. Excited to read this book. My question would be, for people who have struggled for so many years with weight loss and diet change, how will this book provide some different information, especially for someone who has jumped from paleo to keto and everything in between?
Man, that's a good question. So the hope here is that we are pulling things together in a way that maybe hasn't been done as systematically before. Definitely in my first book, I talked about sleep and photo period, but I think I highlight that in a particularly important fashion in this one. We talk about the stress and community element, but really, again, at the end of the day, we can get wrapped around the axle of talking about calories in, calories out, or hormonal considerations, but really what we need to do is figure out a way of eating where we eat enough to support our activity and a healthy way of living and not overeat. And that is all governed by the neuroregulation of appetite. And this book goes deep on the neuroregulation of appetite and really ties everything together in a very systematic fashion, and also gives you some concrete strategies for how to pull all these 4 pillars of health into the process of trying to rein your appetite in. So that's the hope. We'll see how successful we are with implementing that.
And I think it's unique in that it really diffuses a lot of the guilt or blame or shame that people feel when they go from diet to diet, and they're stuck in this cycle. And the way that you explain the neuroregulation of appetite and hyperpalatable foods in the modern world we live in, it really helps take that, you can understand how this works. Okay, now I know exactly what I need to do.
Which I think that's somewhat the answer to the third question. We'll see.
No, maybe you can wax eloquent a little bit more on this one. Okay. Question number 3, winner number 3, J_Tav1, TAV1. Rob Wolf, it seems that humans do better with less food than more food. So why are we wired to eat through ghrelin? The more we eat, the more we are wired to eat, even to our detriment. What is the evolutionary point behind it?
Oh, great question. And the wiring isn't the problem. We were genetically wired just like all organisms on the planet that move to get their nutrition. We're wired to eat more and move less. And that's the fundamental background. But now we have an environment where we could sit in our underwear, work from home, order food to our front door, pop it in a microwave. It can come in a almost infinite variety of flavors and textures. So the wiring's not the problem. When you look at living in the natural world, and I'm one of maybe the rare people who've actually lived as a hunter-gatherer for a chunk of time, and I starved for the most part. We went 10 days before we really had much in the way of food, and there's all kinds of weird backstory behind that. But if you're really living in a natural world where we're not leveraging culture and technology to have a surplus of calories, to have a really easy way to obtain those calories, then that wiring, the tendency to eat everything that's not nailed down, is really, really good. But it's not a problem with evolutionary miswiring. It's just that we got too good at being able to produce food and luxury, and that's our current predicament. How do we take everything that's great about living in the modern world, but then mitigate some of the traps and the downsides of things like social media, which we're actually using to get this message out? So again, it's not problems with the wiring per se. It's that the environment has changed in such a way that that tendency that we have for novelty, to eat everything that's not nailed down, that's now a liability instead of an asset. But fantastic questions, and I know we had a ton more questions. I will be tackling those in soon to be released videos. So thank you guys for the support, and thanks for helping us all to learn how we're wired to eat.